Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers. Would you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank God for America.
Kathleen, roll call, please.
Scott.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Davidson.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
McCampbell.
Here. Okay, got a proclamation first off. And Reverend Dial will be receiving that today.
Whereas the state of Texas made Juneteenth the first official African-American holiday in the United States in 1978. And whereas Juneteenth is the oldest African-American holiday observance. And whereas Juneteenth is synonymous with freedom and is observed nationally by many. And whereas Burlington, Iowa's branch of NAACP is sponsoring the Juneteenth celebration in Burlington on January 24th, 2017 at D. Edwin and Gladys White Memorial Park. And whereas the theme for the Juneteenth celebration is liberty and justice for all. Now therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Burlington, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Saturday, June 24, 2017 as Juneteenth Day in Burlington and ask all citizens to help celebrate this event. Signed and sealed the 19th day of June 2017. Shane McCampbell, Mayor.
Hold on a second. Yeah, let Andy get that on. You don't have to worry about that. She's a professional cell phone photographer. She fixed that.
I sat next to her in a class.
Oh, is that right? Don't hold that against me.
On behalf of the Burlington branch NAACP, we'd like to thank the city for the recognition and support for Juneteenth Day. We certainly hope that we moved it this year from the same weekend as Steamboat Day so that more people could participate in both. And we certainly hope that people are able to come out and join us in the celebration, and that the activity will continue to help make our community better, safer, and friendlier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next we have 3 Mayor's Awards. I would like to say that at times like these, I really get excited, and I'm truly, truly grateful that I am the mayor and I get a chance to do something like this. So I'm excited tonight to get an opportunity to do something like this. All right. First off, I'm going to give a Mayor's Award to someone that has been a friend to the McCampbell family for, oh man, I don't even know when. But this man is, I've been driving past his house he's lived in the same house ever since I was a kid. And I've moved in different places, I've had different hairstyles, who we kidding? I had hair and now I don't, right? Different cars, and but every time I drive past this guy's house, I can honk my horn, and if he's outside, it's guaranteed he's gonna wave to me. I consider him a personal friend. I love this man, and I really feel like we're blessed to have him, and I'm blessed to know him. So be it known, on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you for being a model Burlingtonian. To a lifelong resident who has waved back at me for over 35 years. My looks have changed, and my vehicles have changed as well as the times. One thing has remained the same, a wave from Levi Hartzell. You helped make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. On June 19, 2017, this Mayor's Award is presented to my friend, Levi Hartzell. Come on down. I want to see this blue on your wrist when I'm driving by. Anyway, let's get a picture of this together, buddy. Okay. Mr. Hartzell.
I know Shane McCampbell a long time. He's my best buddy and friend. I like you.
I like you too. Very nice. And you know what? I'm going to double down. I love you, my friend. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for coming down. All right, this meeting's adjourned, everybody. Thank you for coming. No, it's not, because I've got 2 more special awards. This next one, you know, I don't know what this world would be like without music. And we've got some really great musicians and people that have really added to bring a lot of spice and life to the city of Burlington. We're blessed to have a phenomenal young woman with us tonight who has just been such a blessing to us here in Burlington. And I'm so glad you could make it down here tonight. So I'm honored to give this to you. Be it known on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you for being a model Burlingtonian. You have been the choir director of Silver Singers in this community for the last 15 years, and you have made each year wonderful. Your shining light and silver song help make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. On June 19, 2017, this Mayor's Award is presented to Marilyn Sullivan. Would you please come on? All right, well, you can take this back to Hawaii. And thank you for coming down. Let me get a picture with you. All right, let's do it. She's a little prettier than you are. Would you please come and have a word? Okay, somebody gonna talk for you? Yes.
She's got 2 people that are going to talk for her.
Okay. Well, then you got some special people to talk for you. We'll listen to them.
They can probably hear me without me being right at a microphone. Marilyn has come into my life not as early as so many more of you people that are in the room, but she has certainly been instrumental in helping me to have an awful lot of fun in Burlington with music. I, like Shane, say that music is one of those integral parts of our fabric in this country, and it really helps people work and get together. And the things that Marilyn has done for the community are phenomenal in helping put the Silver Singers together, as well as all of her years of teaching music in Burlington as well.
Amen.
Marilyn has laryngitis. It's been an ongoing thing for a while, and Marilyn just retired from the Silver Singers. So this is a really momentous occasion, and we're so glad that you could come down and have the award. Ruth Lindsay probably has a few other things to say as well.
Not much. Yep, I think you pretty much covered it. But I'm Ruth Lindsay, and I joined the Silver Singers about 5-6 years ago. This woman has been phenomenal. We could never have done what we have done over the community if not for this lady. She's been an inspiration to each one of us, and we're really sorry to see her retire, but we understand she needs some free time. So thank you, Marilyn. We love you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And I've got one more. I mean, all 3 heavy hitters tonight. And again, this next person, he's just been a blessing to me since I've been on the council and an encouragement. He doesn't agree with everything that I've done, but he's always been courteous, very kind. And every year around Christmas time, I look forward to Christmas time because we don't get much. But around Christmas time, there's always a guarantee that I'm going to get a Christmas card from my friend. And I'll tell you what, every town needs somebody like you. I'm glad to give this one away. On behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you for being a model Burlingtonian. Every city should have someone like you in it. And I, for one, am grateful to have you as a resident of this great community. Thank you for the yearly Christmas card. It means a lot to me. You help make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. On June 19, 2017, this Mayor's Award is presented to Dean Fennessy. Come on down. I appreciate you, my friend. People think I'm cool. Dean, would you have a word?
My name is Dean Finesse. I'm Victorian. I've been living here all my life. I would say that this town is a good place to live, in my opinion. We do have problems. All towns have problems. We're not perfect, but you can look what's happened in Chicago. They have record killings. I could go down Sunnyside and walk and ride a bike without worrying about being shot or killed. I had 2 little girls being shot in Chicago. We don't have to worry about it. Yes, we do have violence, but this city is still a wonderful place to live. People are kind of decent, most are. And I was taught to treat people as the Lord Jesus Christ, if he was here, he would treat everybody as equal with love, kindness, respect, and decency. And I believe that in my heart, that that's where we should treat people. If we have a disagreement, we should say we disagree about things. But I will still say one thing: Cascade Bridge. Cascade Bridge. So, but I only got a couple more things to say, and I will be quiet. My mother died when I was 19. My dad died about 12 years ago. I want to say that may the Lord Jesus Christ give you wisdom and guidance tonight and bless you in your decisions. But I'm going to say this, Mom, if you're up in heaven, and Dad, I just hope that I made you proud of my life, the way I live it. I recycle, those compute the little thing on the boxes I get at schools. I just hope up there that they're proud of me. Thank you for this.
Thank you. I can assure you, Dean, they're very, very proud of you, my friend, as we all are. To the award winners, you guys can get on out of here. You don't have to stick around for the ugly stuff. Thank you for coming down. We appreciate you. Thank you again, Marilyn. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Pat.
Yes, sir.
TV.
Man, what an awesome group tonight. That was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I get a Christmas card from Dean too. He says he's my karaoke.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna move right down the road. Next on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1 consent agenda having been discussed are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. On the consent tonight, we have the usual, finances and miscellaneous, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports, and bonds. We have 5 resolutions. The first resolution is approving nuisance abatements for various properties. The second is a resolution approving final acceptance and final payment for the 2016 Depot Great Room renovation. The third is a resolution approving lease agreement for the home at 1720 Dill Street at Perkins Park. The fourth is a resolution approving an agreement with Veenstra and Kemp, Inc. to perform the design of the Agency Street widening project east of Roosevelt Avenue to Melrose Court. The fifth is a resolution amending parking rates for downtown reserved parking spaces. We have a set date, public hearing for July 3rd for consideration of plans and specifications for the 2017 Law Enforcement Center. We also have some appointments, Mayor Pro Tem.
We have Parks Advisory Committee, J. Brian Schulte, the Library Board of Trustees, Mary Winan and Matt Shin, the Renewable Energy Committee, Reese Norton, and excuse me, continue to thank all our volunteers. Without them, we are in trouble.
No doubt about that.
Thank you.
No doubt about that. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda? I see none. Council?
No?
Move to approve all listed under item 1 consent agenda.
Second.
Moved in second twice. Kathleen?
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson. Aye. Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
All right. Okay, we're going to move up one of these tonight so that we can get Stephanie on her way. So,
Your Honor, I move the approval and the adoption of the employee handbook.
Second. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Steph?
So in the packet was the updated employee handbook that we've been working on with the city attorney and all the department heads. Basically, we've just gone through all the different policies and made sure where we needed language changes, we cleaned them up. We took out forms, so it got more condensed. It's not as large as it was. The one policy that you agreed to change last week during the work session was the residency requirement policy on page 22. And if Eric will put the map up there, it'll just show everyone here what the expansion, basically we're changing it to be from 10 air miles from the city limits to go to 15 air miles. Again, everyone has to live in the state of Iowa, that's why you're only seeing the Iowa side. Basically, it's going to include Mediapolis, New London, Fort Madison. It was recommended that the fire department stay at the current 10 air miles, so that's the language that's in here, but then anybody else that works for the city can be in the 15 air miles, or Des Moines County. We did leave that, even though it pretty much gets Des Moines County. Does anybody have any questions, or?
Do we have any questions or comments from anybody from the audience? I see none. Counselor, are you satisfied?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you,
Well-
Steph.
I did just have some input, talking with a few residents. They were just concerned, just like you had your concerns about, if you work for Burlington, you should live in Burlington. And I don't know how feasible it would be for it to be, like, you can apply and be accepted for a position and then have a certain amount of time to move
Yeah,
closer,
see,
but.
yeah, that's where it's gonna be one way or the other, I think. I don't see how that's gonna,
That's what I figured, but
yeah.
I had to say it.
Right on. You guys good?
Yeah.
I am.
In terms of the applying, even with our current language, if someone were to live outside of that area, even with the new policy, if someone lives outside of that area, what's our standard procedure for how we deal with that stuff?
Usually, there's a time limit we give them to move in, so I think says up to 6 months, maybe.
So I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we'd
That's
give
pretty
them
good
up
then.
into 6 months to move into the requirements, so.
Very good.
Any other questions for Steph?
No?
We good?
Yep.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you, Steph.
Okay. We have consideration of sale of property locally known as 1336 Garnett Street, City of Burlington, Iowa, with conditions. Anyone?
This is a property we acquired through the abandoned building program. It was a dilapidated structure and has been demolished. We have received interest from both property owners to the north and south to expand their lot size. The property to the north has some steep grades and limited access, and acquiring a portion of the land would allow them access to their property, possibly build a garage in the future. And the property owner to the south resides there and has a desire to expand his property as well. So they both submitted bids for a portion of the property. We just want to make sure we have the correct legal language to proceed with that. So our attorney was going to get more information to us, so we'd recommend continuing this to the following meeting.
Sounds good.
Those are the only two bids we currently received, are from the property owner to the north and property owner to the south.
Okay. You guys good?
We have a motion to continue, or do we need to?
You'd have to close your public hearing before you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We don't want to close the hearing. I think Tim has a motion.
Pardon me?
You don't want to actually close the
We're
public
gonna close it
hearing.
after we,
You just want to continue it to the specific meeting.
I have a motion to continue the meeting to July 3rd.
got a second?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye. Okay, we'll We'll discover that on the 3rd. Next, we have consideration of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of Denmark Street, right-of-way located west of South Main Street. Mr. Tislin.
This is the dead-end portion of Denmark Street past the actually paved portion. The street ends approximately where that yellow line is. The neighbors to the north and to the south have both expressed interest in acquiring a portion of the right-of-way. Our normal policy and practice is to offer half of the right-of-way to the property owner to the north and half to the south. They both expressed interest, so the Planning Commission did review this at their meeting on May 23rd and voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the vacating of the right-of-way based upon the petition and providing a utility easement over the portion of right-of-way. So this would be vacated and sold to the property owners to the north and to the south.
Is there anybody from the audience has any questions or concerns? Council?
Have a motion to close, Your Honor.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Your Honor, a motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of Denmark Street right-of-way located west of South Main Street.
Second.
Moved in second. Let's vote it out.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye. Well done. Okay, next we have consideration of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of alley right-of-way located north of Etna Street and east of South Plain Street. Mr. Tislin?
Similar situation here. It's unapproved alley right-of-way located between Division and Etna, just east of Plain Street. The alley had been vacated just south of Division Street, where the property owner to the north acquired that alley. The property owner has expressed interest in acquiring this as well. Who owns all the adjacent property to it. Gage Bender. This would be vacated and sold to the property owner. This did go to the Planning Commission on May 23rd and voted 5-0 to recommend approval again, based on the petition of the applicant and providing a utility easement over the right-of-way. This would be combined with adjacent properties owned by the property owner.
Anybody from the audience, questions or concerns? See none. Council?
Oh.
Okay, do I get a motion?
Motion to close, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Your Honor, a motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of the alley right-of-way located north of Etna Street and east of South Plain Street.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen, let's take it to vote.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye. Good deal. Okay, next we have consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 126 Taxi Cabs and Vehicles for Hire of the Burlington, Iowa Code of Ordinances and deleting Chapter 127 Vehicles for Hire Drivers in its entirety.
You can open a public hearing on that. Is that a public hearing? Or is it first reading? Never mind if it's not. Do you have anything on this, Major? Since, I think Chief gave the review of this last time.
Yeah, he did.
Chief is in Kansas City, going over, actually, this is an okay time to mention what's going on. With the, one of the things you did was set the public hearing for the specs for the PD remodel. They're in Kansas City going over components of that bid design at this moment. So that's why he wasn't able to be here today. He'll be gone tomorrow as well with that process. What do you know about the taxi cab ordinance?
The way he had explained and talked to me, and the way that we understand it is that the vehicle for hire, the licensing, or I guess the vetting of the taxi cab drivers was now that Burns put on the taxi cab owners versus us having to vet those, and it would be their responsibility. We would actually be licensing the taxi cab owners to run that business and have that opportunity to I guess, inspect and make sure they're maintaining, I guess, the standards that are in the ordinance on the vehicles for hire. But this comes about with the state regulating Uber within the state of Iowa. We don't have Uber here in Burlington. We don't have any Uber drivers that service Burlington right now, but it could be coming, so it's just kind of preempting that.
And as part of that process with Uber, and the state trying to, on a statewide basis, have a standard process for how that should happen, and then trying to marry that with the language that regulates taxi cabs, they have adopted and implemented new standard language for what can and cannot be done, which has led to us having to make sure that we have our code revised to match what state standards are, which is why we're here with this tonight.
Basically, we're making it tougher for people in town than what the state had set down, so we're kind of lined up to that, right?
What we had in place was more strict than what is now allowed by state code, as they've modified it to allow Uber or Lyft, that type of service to go into place.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Major.
You guys good?
No, no, I had some questions.
Yes, sir.
On the, if you don't know, Major, that's all right, we can take it up next time, but in the ordinance, it says that corporations will have to register with the police department, and I'm curious whether Uber drivers will be treated as part of the Uber Corporation, or whether they're going to be independent business people. And if we have 3 or 4 Uber drivers, people that are going to drive for Uber, if they're going to be actually driving for Uber, if they're going to be independent contractors that are dispatched by Uber, and if it's the case of they're going to be working for Uber, or their vehicles are all going to have to be like painted and identified as it says in the ordinance.
The way that I understand it is that Uber drivers will not have to do that, and that's the purpose of the state involvement and the regulation by the state of the Uber service. They have vetted that service through Uber and Lyft. So with taxi cabs, that is like a local business here, and those standards are here as a local business. The state does not regulate the taxi cabs, and that's why the ordinance is in place, if that makes sense, or if that helps.
But Uber cabs still have to they have to have Uber and all of that stuff on the vehicles, right?
I don't know if I'm not sure. I can't answer that, to be honest with you, Mayor.
Okay, well, I'll bring that up next week with the chiefs, sir.
Okay.
Because that's putting a greater burden on those that are already here and doing business, and then, if somebody can come in and we can have 3 or 4 people working for Uber, and they can have different identification on their vehicles. One could be black and the other one white, and the other one orange. Then we need to identify that in the ordinance, whether it's going to be treated as a corporation, and they're going to have to meet the same standards as everybody else in town, or if they're going to be treated as independent businesses, and how they're going to be identified needs to be spelled out in the ordinance.
Okay, I'll talk with the chief and have him get with you and explain that, so.
All right.
Hopefully I'm pretty sure he has a grasp of it since he's been at the previous meetings that I have not attended, but he probably has more of a grasp of it in the discussion that's going on, and him and I can sit down and talk about it and bring that back for sure.
Okay. And I just wanted to point out, I understand the Uber and their process and Lyft and what they're doing, and I also understand that it's not about me not understanding the applications that these companies use or how they do business, and it's all computerized, et cetera. It's not that I don't understand that or have somewhat of a grasp of it. What my concern is for these guys that drive taxis today and drive 12 or 14 hours, like one young man that's about 35, 36 years old, drives 12 or 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and barely is able to get by. And it's not because he's a lazy individual or anything else. It's his limited abilities that put him in that profession. And he does a very good job at it. But it's making it easier for competition to come in. It's making it tougher for him, even tougher for him to earn a living. So I'm about protecting the people that's already here and that's already working and already trying and that have, and that's my concern with this. I know we can't change anything because of the way the state's written the laws. We're just updating our ordinance to be like the state code, state laws, but it's still very, very concerning for me that because someone has a better business plan that's gonna put some of our folks out of business down here. But that's life.
Did you get it off?
Sometimes people,
You good?
sometimes people call that progress, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean that.
It also has a different quality.
Yeah.
I almost said, buy small. Okay, I'm not gonna even start with that. Are we good?
I guess one of those things, Major, I don't know if you know, the ordinance section that's referred to as the 12605, the language in here, even with the taxi permit, says that shall have the same color scheme or have markings, window decals, or other insignia. Does that mean that a taxi doesn't have to have the same color scheme? They could have just the markings, the consistent.
Chief talked about that, and he's under the same impression that it doesn't have to have the same color scheme anymore.
Yeah.
That it would just have to have something that would identify.
And I think the Ubers all have the same, the Uber ID that's decal that's on it, and all of them are required to have it. So that that standard does apply across all of them. But there is some type, they meet that same standard in here. The taxis could do, from my understanding, the same thing. They don't have to have the same color scheme moving forward.
So where it says here, all vehicles owned by the same company shall be painted the same color scheme
Or,
have markings, window decals, and other insignia that clearly visible.
Yes.
So if Yellow Cab wanted to go red cabs, white
That's-
cabs, and yellow cabs, they're okay to do that.
that's my understanding of how that reads.
As long as it says Yellow Cab and the,
They'd have to have their
Identify it.
consistent identification, and it could be a decal or whatever, so.
A green cab with yellow on it. That'd be cool. Oh, gee.
now the two Uber vehicles I've seen in town are totally different from each other. The decals and everything, it's gonna be different.
So guys, are we ready? Can I get a motion?
Motion to close.
Second.
Kathleen?
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
A motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 126 Taxi Cabs and Vehicles for Hire of the Burlington, Iowa Code of Ordinances and deleting Chapter 127 Vehicles for Hire Drivers in its entirety.
Second.
So
Moved and seconded.
just to be clear, then this is the first reading, so any questions can be cleared up at our next.
Thank you, sir. Well said. Kathleen?
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Major.
And thanks for bringing up the first reading, too. That's, everybody will have a chance to talk on that a little bit further. Next, we have consideration of an ordinance amending Section 170.50 Board of Adjustment of Chapter 170 Zoning Code of the City of Burlington Municipal Code. Tisland?
This is a recommended change brought forward to give a little more latitude within the zoning code in instances where our code currently does not give. Currently, under our zoning code, there's limited ability to get a variance from the zoning code requirements based on uniqueness or some issue or item or difficulty on a property through the variance process. The state code and land use law restrictions on that make it clear that hardship is necessary, one of three components to get a variance, and the hardship is by definition, very hard to prove. But through our zoning code, we can create a section under the zoning board that allows for exceptions. If those exceptions are laid out and give some requirements to be considered for granting of such. There are other communities that have that. It is an allowed use of the zoning code, provided it is written into your code. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 on May 23rd to recommend approval of the amendments to the Board of Adjustment regulations. These were made based on the limited ability to vary from the existing code requirements in special circumstances and to allow the Zoning Board of Adjustment additional authority to grant exceptions to the zoning code where they're warranted and reasonable. I think they've had maybe a dozen variance applications in the last few years and have not approved any of those based on the letter of the law. They are following those requirements. This would give them certain ability to provide exceptions that do not exceed 50% of a particular requirement in question or do not extend beyond the existing distance of a building where it is not conforming, provided that the applicant can show certain requirements as listed under item 2D, 1 through 7 here. That talks about not being detrimental to the public health, safety, general welfare, consistent with the comprehensive plan, does not substantially diminish or impair the character of the property values within the neighborhood, does not impede normal and orderly development, where it will not alter the regulations or standards of the zone in which it's located in it, where it's reasonably necessary due to practical difficulties related to the land or lot in question. So any request still has to go through the Zoning Board of Adjustments, still has to get approval through that process and show that they still have a need. They're not just asking for it, just to ask for it, that there's some criteria, although it does give them more flexibility in granting that, so.
I think it was needed. Are there any questions or concerns from the audience? I see none. Council?
That's a super good move.
This time I spent, I think it was 5 years on that board, and we hardly ever gave a variance for that same reason, because it was so hard to prove that there was a hardship. We wanted to do more, but if you did, then you were subject to being taken to court, and that just puts you in an untenable position. You just can't do that. So I'm hugely in favor of this. Yeah.
Good move.
Motion to close?
Second.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
All right, I have a motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading of an ordinance amending section 170.50, Board of Adjustment of Chapter 170 zoning code of the City of Burlington Municipal Code.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen, let's vote.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye. All right, well done. Ordinances?
Yes, I have some. For the preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to fireworks.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Anything you want to add? Okay. Yeah, just come up and be eye candy for a second.
If you have questions, I'll try and answer those. The ordinance has always been that they cannot shoot off fireworks in the city of Burlington, and that's probably going to remain the same. It's difficult. The possession of them is they can possess them, but they just can't shoot them off here in town.
Stay right there for a second. Anybody from the audience, questions or concerns? I see none. You guys have been lovely tonight so far. Council? Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome.
Okay, I would like to make an amendment to amend the motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to fireworks to read as follows. For waiver of preliminary consideration and adoption of the second reading, and for final adoption of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to fireworks.
Second.
Second.
Kathleen?
Okay. This is on the motion to amend.
That's not a motion to amend.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye. Okay, now we'll vote as amended.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Yes. Okay, moving
All
forward.
right. Another ordinance for the final adoption of an ordinance amendment to ordinance number 3403, an ordinance creating the Arborview Estates PUD.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tisland?
No changes from the previous readings on this. Again, this allows a couple additional lots for the duplex condominium or attached single-family housing, Lot 15 and 16, a buildable lot on Lot 17, and a larger detention area to the south of development, as well as an outlot on the north side with the cul-de-sac turnaround shown on the north-south roadway, as well as some minor changes to some of the setbacks within the PUD. This is the third reading. The Planning Commission did vote 4-0 to recommend approval as written within the ordinance.
Anybody from the audience, questions or concerns? Council?
Good.
Oh, all right, let's get her done.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye. Okay,
Resolution approving the amended preliminary plat for the Arborview Estates subdivision.
Second.
thank you, sir. Mr. Tisland?
This is the preliminary plat that would fall in line with the ordinance that was just approved, showing the additional lots that were within the Arborview Estates PUD ordinance. This, again, is a preliminary plat. They will have to final plat this prior to selling the lots, but this would approve the general layout of this subdivision.
Anybody from the audience, questions or concerns? Council?
No.
Kathleen?
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye. Well done.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving the final plat of Swisher subdivision.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tisland?
This is the subdivision located south of West Avenue, as shown outlined in black on this map here. Just for reference, it is a 4-lot subdivision with 2 existing lots, lots 1 and 2, having single-family homes on West Avenue, and outlots 3 and 4 being lots for future development. This does meet our requirements for the minor subdivision, so it is going to final plat. Would expect, or hope, I guess, that outlots 3 and 4 would develop in the future, would go through the preliminary plat process to do so. There are a lot of streets in this area that have dead ends, and this is kind of the connection point. But it is just a portion of the area that's undeveloped in this area. The lots to the east are owned separately, so those would have to be coordinated for future development as well.
Anybody from the audience, questions or concerns? I see none. Council? Kathleen?
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye. Well done.
You have a resolution awarding contract for the 2017 Depot Storm Sewer Improvements.
Wait a second.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Mack?
Good evening. Before you is a resolution to award contract for the Depot Stormwater Project. A slideshow here to kind of give an overview of what the project entails, and it involves running new storm pipe. Prior to it used to go through BNSF property. Now we're directing it north to make the connection. You'd go to the next page, show the bids. The project estimate was at, I think, $368,000. The low bid came in with Phi Excavating at $268,000, so a little lower than what we had projected. They will probably be doing some concrete work along the side there as a change order. Take care of some ADA compliance. They should start here in July if awarded.
Any questions or concerns? Just a minute, see right there. Any questions or concerns from the audience? I see none. I just have one question for you. Did you buy that shirt at Kohl's for $7? I'll ask you later about that. I'm good. You guys?
What exactly does this accomplish for us down there?
There's severe ponding that happens in the low areas, especially on the southern part of the depot. And also it allows us to be able to pump out of the basement into that storm sewer network. As currently we could have anywhere from a few inches to a couple feet of water in the basement. In order to pump out, we have to run a collapsible pipe across to the southwest. There's an intake right off of Main Street, and we dump it into the top of there, which closes down the access for bus to use the parking lot.
So I guess my question is this a never-ending money pit building? Do you know the term money pit? Are you familiar with it?
I understand the term money pit.
Okay. I thought maybe you're too young.
No, he just doesn't want to talk about that question.
It's a rhetorical question, Nick.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? You guys good?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
We have a resolution awarding contract for the 2017 erosion mitigation at corner of North Street and North 4th Street.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Nick?
Before you is a resolution awarding contract for the work that we've had designed out on 4th and North. As you may remember, last September we had a fairly heavy rain that caused erosion off the hillside of 4th and North. The project before us is a soil nail project. If you go to the next slide, please. Next one, too. The bidder was GeoBuild out of Pennsatucky, Pennsylvania.
Punxsutawney.
Yep, that one.
Punxsutawney Phil.
Groundhog's Day. The estimate has come down from the original projection from a different type of project, but the most recent estimate was $311,000, but the bids came in at $249,000. So you see a lesser bid. So we're pretty excited about that. Still fairly high cost to fix this, but it is
A lot less than what we thought. Yeah, on the
It's
right. Yeah, from the onset. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Good deal. Good deal. Council?
Thank you, Nick.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Your Honor, I move the approval of the awarding of the contract for the 2017 Agency Street Widening Project, West End.
Second.
And I'm excited.
Thanks, all three of you.
I'm excited about this.
Are you excited about that?
I like this project.
This resolution awards contract for the Agency West project, of which the scope is from just west of Highway 61 to West Burlington Avenue. It includes widening the road, Agency Road, to add a center turn lane in there, along with new lights at the intersection where there's currently temporary lights, and also involves a new railroad crossing. If you go to the next slide, the estimate of this project has kind of differed. I think Jesse kind of addressed some of that concern last week. The intersection of West Burlington and Agency in the initial project scope was not going to cover the full intersection. With West Burlington doing the asphalt on that project, there was kind of a voided area that was not going to be surfaced. With ours being concrete and there's asphalt, it's in the best for both worlds to have it all the same product type. So we're gonna take on the extra northwest corner of that intersection. So the estimate from that amount is closer to the bid dollar that you see at 1.599 million by Jones Contracting. It was the only bid that we received on that, but being within the estimate, we feel that it's reasonable to award.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or concerns from the audience? I see none. Council?
So it's gonna be, I know I had this question answered before, but
Ask away.
a bike lane? Was there going to be? No.
No bike lane, but there is a sidewalk that'll be installed on the north side of Agency that currently doesn't exist. So I guess the biggest area is at Agency and Roosevelt. There will be a cross section. The sidewalk on the east side of Roosevelt is currently on the south side, so pedestrian and bike traffic will have to cross to east to west and then north to south to be able to access that sidewalk. But the sidewalk will go from Highway 61 all the way to West Burlington Avenue.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Are we good?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Your Honor, excuse me, Your Honor, I move we approve the awarding the contract for the Parkview Care Facility asbestos abatement and demolition project.
Second.
Moved in second. Mr. Tisland?
City took bids for Parkview Care Facility on June 6th. This is for asbestos abatement, demolition, and site grading. I received 5 bids for the project, with a low bid $380,000 from G&B Construction LLC out of Burlington. Bids ranging $383, $419, $423, and $426, so very competitive on that end. The asbestos abatement is a very large portion of this project. Currently, the city has a little over $300,000 in the demolition fund. Additional $20,000 was allocated in the CIP future years. The DNR has a program that would allocate $25,000 towards the removal of asbestos from the property. Once the demolition is complete, it is planned to subdivide the property into 3 buildable residential lots that would be for sale. Projected to receive approximately $60,000 to $90,000 for the 3 lots combined once sold. Those would be larger than the lots to the west of Crapo Drive there, so would be desirable building lots. Would recommend covenants on the lots so that a certain size home, so we're getting tax revenue back from the property as well. So we would recommend moving forward with G&B Construction as low bid for $380,000.
Right on. Anybody from the audience with any questions or concerns? Thank you. Council?
I'm good.
Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Your Honor, I move we approve letting you sign a memorandum of agreement for the Iowa Model Communities Initiative.
Second.
I don't know who knows.
Somebody give me a pen.
I don't know who knows anything about this. Do you, Eric?
The memo that you received, but
But I received a letter from the Iowa Economic Development Authority a week.
June 5th? Well,
Yeah.
it was dated June 5th, received later.
It was, I got it, I think Thursday of not last week, the week before. Saying that they had nominated us to be a model community for our downtown building facade renovation project that we had done. They wanted to have us there for best practices over the course of this next year. If you look through the commitments that are listed in there for our community as a result of this, the largest thing is being open and available to work with some planning efforts from their part to serve as a source of other communities being able to ask questions of over the course of the next year. This is something, Eric, I would need to confirm with you. I think that would be Charlie and Steve Freevert,
Yeah.
who would be our 2 local contacts on that. Charlie had made contact with Steve to make sure that he was willing to serve in that role. because that's really our biggest requirement, is to make ourselves available for that process over the course of the next year. You see as a result what they're offering to us. It's essentially the kind of participation that our planning department tries to have involved on a statewide basis. They're able to do a couple of state programs or conferences free, registration free. And it looks like next June you're probably going to be hosting a site visit from other communities, although there isn't a lot of information as to what that's going to entail. Anything else on that, Eric?
No, I think it's a good program, and we reach out to other communities just to get information from them on things they're doing, best practices, and we like to work with communities that are seeing us as a model as well, so
Yeah,
that's
that'd be good.
good for relations with other staff members and with other community members, so we see it as a benefit. Making our community more aware to more people is always something that's good as well.
The nice thing about doing something like this is when the state reaches out to us and wants to use us to put forward to others, they're in a position where they recognize that they're happy with the work that we are doing and are trying to do their best to help support us in being successful as we move forward. So I guess my biggest concern is making sure we don't stub our toes in working with the state on it.
I've got confidence, we've got good staff.
We do. Madam Chair.
No questions from the audience, we're good? Okay, council? Kathleen?
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye. Well done. This has been a lovely meeting tonight. You guys have been fantastic. This is where we will entertain comments from the audience. And I know some of you have been sitting so patiently. You've been so wonderful. Comments?
Me, okay, so this is our chance.
This is your chance now. Please give us your name and address as you come forward, and then,
My name is Reginald Jennings. I live at 413 Court Street.
And I'm Melanie Fritz, and I live at 11134 North Gear Avenue. Sorry.
My name is Holly Hoskinson. I live at 601 South Roosevelt Avenue.
My name is Janine Walsh. I'm at 2200 South Main, Iowa. Burlington.
Today, I wanted to bring to your attention that I'm with a animal advocacy group, and it's called A Street Cat with No Desire. We wanted to go about changing the code 65.34, which is the prohibition for trapping animals.
The use of live traps, right now the code.
can you move into the microphone?
Right now, I believe the code says that we have to have the permission of the animal control officer. And from what I can see, he's very overwhelmed. And people like Holly have called him, and he's not able to come over and help her with cats. And so what we would like to do is to have permission for our group to use live traps to catch the cats, where we don't have to go through what I call red tape through the animal control officer, because he might not be able to show up when the cat's showing up. And, you know, it's very unpredictable, even, you know, if you're watching the cat. So we're trying to get the population of the cats down in Burlington and spaying and neutering them, raising money from donors. And we hope that you will support us on this. So.
I have been living at my current address for 3 years, and a woman, an elderly woman that lived in the front apartments, moved out, and she abandoned her 2 adult cats when she moved out. These cats, I've been helping feed them for about 4 months. I've been buying food for them and everything. I've been making sure that they're safe. And these cats have recently reproduced, and there are now 3 kittens. And my concern is, I've been trying to trap them for the past several weeks, and last night somebody actually stole the trap. And my concern is that I can't do anything about these cats on my own because I've called animal control 3 times. They're not spayed or neutered, and it's just going to be an endless cycle of kitten after kitten after kitten, and I'm just becoming overwhelmed with it. It's very overwhelming.
And I love cats, and not everyone does love cats, and they say that they cause a lot of, they're a nuisance with scratching up their screens, and Newberry Village complained about that, and we just need the entire community to help us out with this and support it, because we're very passionate about it, and something needs to be done, right? So.
The city of Fairfield and the city of Washington have both allowed trapping by live trap of their cat population. In fact, the city of Washington had an ordinance like ours, and that was given an exemption for one of the groups to come in and trap, neuter, spay, and then release. And eventually, the cat population is no longer. Fairfield has no feral cat problem, nor does Washington. And there's not a company here that will do that, and we're attempting to get ourselves situated to where we can. And I don't know if that means we need to be on the agenda. Do we have to go through the animal board?
Major, could you come forward and kind of talk about where this stands with our department and how you could address it?
There's several different options we can take. Number one, the animal control officer does have the live traps down at the police department. They just need to make arrangements, or we can make arrangements to get some of those out to wherever you're having the issues with the cats. The second thing is with live trapping, the DNR controls trapping of animals usually, and if a private entity wants to engage in that kind of business, for hire or whatever, they need to be approved through the Department of Natural Resources to do that, and that's where it would probably begin. But the live trapping animals, the reason we regulate it, control it, because that way we know where the traps are. So in like inclement weather, we don't have a trap that's, if we allowed citizens to do that, they'd trap an animal and then maybe forget about it, and then the animal would suffer inside of the traps. I'm not saying you folks would, but we have instances in the past where they've frozen to death and things of that nature in the wintertime. So we kind of regulate it that way, is the purpose of the animal control officer is in charge of issuing those traps and making sure they know where they're at, so he keeps track of those traps and maintains them. So if that helps.
That doesn't help because he doesn't answer people's calls, and because he's only one person, and a lot of people are lazy and they won't go get the traps, and so it just continues this very bad cycle of animals reproducing, and they get hit by cars. I hear this constantly, that there's colonies of cats around Burlington. All over the world, obviously, but we're talking about us. This is what we can do here. And we as a group would like to have permission so that we will know where the traps are. We're trying to form neighborhood captains, and we'll know what's going on. So it's too much red tape to go through, going down to the police station and trying to reach him on the phone, etc. So
I do feel like there should be something as far as, like, obviously we don't want everyone to be able to use live traps, because then people will trap anything and who knows what's going to happen. But I think as far as a specific group, and so long as it's an official group and maybe even set up as a nonprofit.
Yes.
That would be even better.
We're working toward that, and we're working with the Animal Protection League too.
Major, would your department work with a group that was established like that under the current setup to do that, what's being talked about?
Yes, most definitely. We'd work with them and the animal control officer to make sure, and the Des Moines County Humane Society out there, the animal shelters, to make sure we had a place to take the animals once they're trapped. We could facilitate some of that and maybe get with you folks and see what we can do.
Stick around when this meeting's over with and let me talk to you.
We don't want to kill the animals. If an animal needs to be euthanized, and which is where they're very sick, or something like that, then yes. But if they're simply a feral cat that we catch and we fix them, then we are wanting to release them again.
Yes.
And because eventually we'll have the population down. Fairfield did have the problem, and all of them have worked on it. They have Cedar Rapids is the same way. There's good examples around that we can look at and follow their guidance. And the Humane Society, from what I've been told, they euthanize them, and if the police officer takes them out there, they're not socialized, or they're really scared, so they appear not socialized, and they become euthanized. So that
Yeah, well, because once
doesn't make
a
sense.
cat has become feral and for so long, it's nearly impossible to make them into a pet. And best case scenario is that, they're fixed, identified as having one that's already been fixed and then released. They catch nuisance animals, just mice and things like that. So.
Right. If we didn't have cats in Burlington, there would be a really bad rodent problem. So the cats are keeping the rodents down here, so that they are doing a very good thing in that way.
I definitely think this is something that, obviously we're going to continue conversations tonight and next week. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get anything figured out.
Okay.
But it's definitely something that at least I support personally. And I think that once we figure out what everyone needs to do to, come to an agreement, I think we'll figure something out.
Yeah, because go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you need to start with the police department, get with them, and
DNR.
Try to get something worked out with them. I just want to say, I appreciate you guys coming down. Thanks for caring about pets in the city. You're a borderline crazy cat lady, but I'm not going to say that. Did I just say that? No, all right, maybe it's my... All right, but no, God bless you. Appreciate that. You hold tight too. I'll holler at you guys for a minute.
Thank you, folks.
Are there any other comments from the audience? Okay. You guys have been fantastic, even the crazy cat people. You're not crazy, just the one sitting next to you. Mr. Tisland? Antoinette?
Yes, of course.
I know you do.
So much going on. It's so exciting. I hope some people at least got to enjoy Steamboat Days and the festivities, whether it was the parade or the rides or the food. And then, of course, the art fair yesterday.
Was it awesome?
Yeah, it was awesome. I didn't get to buy anything, though. This week, we have the final Burlington Lunchtime Chamber Music Series, which is, bring your lunch about 12:15 to the First United Methodist Church. And that's on Washington.
When is that?
The 21st. It's a Wednesday. And it's a free concert. It's a saxophone quartet. So think about that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's going to be pretty cool.
Yes.
And then the rest of the week I'm really excited about is the Snake Alley Festival of Film from the 22nd to the 24th. I've been talking about it nonstop. And
You're all jazzed about that, huh?
I'm sure everyone that knows me is super annoyed, but it's a really good time. I discovered it last year and found out that I just loved it. If you like kind of short films, indie films, it's a great place to go.
You're the crazy film lady,
At the
huh?
Capitol, yeah. Capitol Theater. Yeah, so that's all I have.
All right, sounds like a party. Tim Scott?
I just wanted to thank the volunteers down at Steamboat Days. I went down, I was walking, and I went down like about 6:30, and the place was a mess. Come back by at 8 o'clock, and it was like there was never a mess. I mean, it was just amazing how organized and how clean the place was when they got done. It was just super. And of course, Tom Walls was down there and kind of spearheading things. And Mike Mailer, talked with him. This was his 24th year down there. And there's a lot of other very good, very helpful volunteers down there. I just couldn't be prouder of a group of people.
Anything else? Okay. I just want to, one is the Steamboat Days Parade. I just want to thank Antoinette. You were fantastic. Everyone loved you. Nobody liked me, but everybody loved you. And
It's understandable.
I know, exactly. So I totally understood. But it was a great day. It was a great crowd. It was beautiful weather.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So yeah, it was just it was a good parade, and just everybody that had their hand in that, I thought that was phenomenal.
Note to self, though, more candy.
We always run short at the
We
end.
always
You get too
do.
aggressive at the
I
beginning.
do.
I tried to warn you. I did the same thing. The only other thing I had, I just man, it just went away from me. Wow. Okay. It just went away from me. If it comes back, we'll try to double down. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to comment about that parade also. It's always enjoyable. Other than you two, I thought the best act, the best presentation was by the kids from the library. I told Rhonda this. They were acting like they were on a roller coaster. Did you get a chance
No,
to see them?
yeah, it was
Oh,
at the end.
you missed it. It was really cool. They had little costumes made up to look like they're sitting on a roller coaster, and they're walking down the street doing their roller coaster thing.
That's fine.
Kid barfing on the side. And,
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
It was really neat. So I wanted to point that out. Rhonda, that was really good. So if you missed it, maybe you can talk them into the 4th of July things.
That's Midwest America. Somebody's got a Ralph at a parade.
And we did go to the art fair, so it's expanded into
Yeah.
different territories, and that was kind of cool. I
Mhm.
thought. A lot more vendors. I don't know if that was just a one-year thing because it's the 50th year, or they're going to keep doing
I
that.
think I'd like to think that it'll stay that way.
Anyway.
I have some very important issues I'd like to discuss, but I'll do that later.
Well, you reserve the right. Whenever you need to, just let us know. City Manager?
Only thing that I really have to point out with Steamboat Days, again, Saturday night with a storm event that moved through, our emergency services, along with their group that planned how to make sure that they had a contingency in place for how to deal with weather events. They did a phenomenal job over the course of not just the night of the event, but in preparation of that over the last year, making sure they had a lot of communications back and forth on how they're going to deal with that. And it really played out well for what happened and how they went through the process of making sure that people knew what was going on with the weather, how to make sure that they, in a pretty orderly fashion, were able to get into safety is for those who are willing to go to shelter and then be able to continue the event later. So Steamboat Days did an excellent job with that, and I just want to commend their staff, or the volunteers, for what they did, and their willingness to work with our folks as they tried to plan for that over the course of this last year. Nick, you wanted to show us something from this just today?
Yeah, this morning. Can you throw that
Oh,
picture up?
yes.
We're doing quite well at the roundabout right now. This morning, we poured 200 yards of concrete, and then this afternoon, we poured about 75. This is a fairly impressive picture taken. I can't take credit for it. Ryan Freitag, one of our engineering techs who was inspecting the job, took a picture of this morning. So rather than pour concrete out on the other side and drive around and disrupt some of the grade work, they used the pumper truck. And so I thought that was a fairly cool image of them pumping over top of the whole project essentially to pour it around, so. We're moving, we're pouring concrete every day this week, barring rain, so.
Praise God.
Coming right along.
Good deal. Man, I can't say I've ever seen concrete poured like that. Hey, I did remember what mine was. I wanted to, I got invited to the Skywarn CERT banquet, and it was a phenomenal time. And I just want to thank those people, everybody that volunteered for Skywarn and CERT. Phenomenal group of people. They volunteered their time. They volunteered their time for training to make sure that in times of bad weather that they can go through the process that they go through to try to help us to stay safe. So again, for all the people that were at the banquet, those that couldn't make it, I just want to say thanks for inviting me, and thanks for everything that you do. Tim Scott?
Yeah, on the 24th, Saturday the 24th, we had a proclamation for Juneteenth program earlier tonight. I'd really like to see a ton of people show up this year. It's not during Steamboat Days, it's not during the parade. You know, it's they changed the weekend. This should be a great opportunity for more people to get out there. And I've been there 3 or 4 times, and I've always had a good time. And they really need a boost, a lift up, and some help. And having lots of people there will do that. So make an effort to show up if you can. I know they'd appreciate it.
They're here. We good?
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen?
Scott?
Aye.
Dave Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
And Campbell?
Aye. This means adjourn. America.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys are fantastic. The audience was lovely tonight. You are all fantastic.